Today, we're talking about account assignments. Gordon, what's the best way to approach this?
There's a lot of different philosophies or approaches, I would say, to account assignment, but the general idea or concept people are trying to accomplish is the same, and that they want to ensure that they've got coverage throughout their area of responsibility, their counties, their territories, whatever it is. They want to make sure that there's account follow-up. And even if they don't have territories or certain areas that they're responsible for, it may just be follow-up with key customers. And so the simple way to approach it or look at it is you've got a sales staff or an organization that can only make so many contacts per year. You want to make those contacts as efficiently as you possibly can. A lot of, not something we have time to get into today per se, but something that a lot of people don't recognize is that quality of the contact is really important, having objectives and really a goal for the actual meeting or the call, not just dropping off a business card per se. So a lot of what we're talking about here really is true contacts with customers and defining what that is and determining what is the frequency that it should occur and for which customers. There's a lot of customers that don't justify it. And so some extremely rough kind of best practice or guidelines that I give to a lot of customers is that if you have a good distribution of accounts, meaning a standard way to classify them is to say that they're A, B, C, or D. A and B customers will typically make up about 80% of your business, and it's usually about 20% of your accounts, the old 80-20 rule. Now, this will depend on what products they sell. If they sell smaller things and higher quantities of them, that distribution might be 60 or 70%, but it's a rough guideline to work off of. And so what you need to think about is those A and B customers, you need to protect those. Make sure that they're called on typically a more frequent basis. And then as you move into the C's, sometimes they have potential, but they just don't require the level of frequency, nor do they justify that. But you need to stay in touch with them. And ideally, the goal is outside of the buying cycle, because that's when you want to best talk to a customer. You'd ideally want to have contact with them when they are not in the buying cycle, when they're not price sensitive and not focused on what it is that they're going to pay for right now, more about what are their needs and their future planning. And so that's a lot of what this whole account assignment or call frequency thing is about, is making sure that you are reaching them proactively. And there's a way to set that up in the system and a bunch of things to consider there, but you really need to keep in the back of your mind at all times that you can only make so many contacts. And if you want them to be quality contacts where they accomplish something, you don't want to be over assigning too many accounts, nor do you want to be assigning or expecting them to make too many calls or contacts with a customer.
So how is that handled inside Handle?
So the application has a way that you can assign people, as many people as you want, essentially by department. So within every account within Handle, there is a place that you can assign as many what we call manager types as you want. Think of them as departments. Possibly you could have, sales, whole goods, marketing, service. We even have some organizations that assign sales managers to key accounts for maybe an annual call or something like that. But you can see here that you can set that up, assign the user, assign the call frequency, and then we have all kinds of automation rules that will calculate in the background when the next call is to be made based on whenever the previous one was completed. Now, where this can get much more powerful, but also much more complicated, is in that we talk with a lot of organizations about not just relying on recording calls for tracking when the activity happens. There may also be emails. You may have created a quote. There could be parts or service transactions going on. All of these are transactions in our system. And we have another robust tool we won't get into right now called AOR Intelligence that allows you to actually configure what is established or considered a call. So it could be, you could say, when was a combination of when was the last email, quote completed, or call made, to be able to calculate the next call date, which then determines what we had previously up, which are the maps and the color coding on things to tell you whether or not people are being reached frequently enough. And there's two things to be looking at there based on these call frequencies after you've done this simple setup. Is you can look at it from the perspective of, are they overdue to be reached, which is a simplistic way to look at it, Or you can look at it in a more detailed view, which is what we have here, where we're looking at, are they in a deficit or a surplus? Meaning, are you contacting them too frequently or not frequently enough? And in my, what I'd say is my best practices, this is the most powerful way to look at it, because it starts to tell you where people are using or contacting people too frequently. And if you're wondering how it is that you're going to reach more people, one of the ways that you do that is you become more efficient with the people that you contact a little too much, more efficient in your calls, and redistribute those calls to other accounts or prospects that you have within your list. And so if I were to kind of look at this as a tiered approach, the most simplistic way to look at it is just simply assigning accounts, and have they not been completed within the most recent requirement or call frequency. But then you take it that step further, where you can bring in other types of communications outside of just manual call recording and start to measure how often are they occurring, and start to look at that distribution of, are they contacting certain people too much or other people that they're not contacting enough, which you can see with our indicators. And then there's ways within here to put the color coding and the icons and all that, turn that into maps, lists, dashboards, any sort of thing from there.